so what I'll be doing the next sort of 15 minutes is talking about two forms of the Shakti that are very close to my heart. And of course, all forms of Shakti are close to my heart. You know, Ma Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati, I identify with them when I am doing some intellectual work, when I am looking after the household, when I am, dressing up for any occasion, when I am looking after my family. But when I am focusing on the work that I do, particularly for Hinduism, which is to be spreading the truth and trying to undo any injustices that are being inflicted on India and particularly Hindus through social media, as English Behen Kadil say. I feel I identify very strongly then with Ma Durga and Ma Kali. And I will talk about both because they are often worshipped together, and there are similarities in the characteristics, the qualities of the two that I will talk about in combination today. So yes, Ma Durga and Ma Kali. I resonate with them when I feel the need to be strong, fierce, and a warrioress. And these are actually very feminine aspects that perhaps people don't recognize. And that is because the Western lens has positioned women in a certain way as meek and mild throughout history. I mean, fortunately, women are sort of breaking out of that mold in the West, but in Bharat, in Hinduism, women have always been very empowered and very strong. So there is this difference in approach to or understanding of the feminine between India, Bharat, Hinduism, and the West. And it's been such a journey for me, such an empowering journey in becoming a Hindu, to realize this strength and courage. Because when there are situations in life where we need to be fierce and we need to be courageous, then that's exactly what we should be. We shouldn't hold back because we feel, no, that's not a feminine way to be. And ultimately, if you think about it, what is a more fierce person than, for example, a mother protecting her children in any species, not just in humans? So it is a very feminine characteristic to be fierce, to be protective, to be courageous. So Ma Durga, it means invincible, impassable. She is the remover of obstacles, the goddess of war, strength, and protection. She rides a tiger with weapons in her hands. But she is this balance between strength and courage and fierceness, and also calm and beauty, because at the same time she is very beautifully dressed, wearing beautiful jewelry. We then contrast that slightly with Ma Kali. Now she has wild hair, wearing tiger skins, again weapons in her hands. Her tongue is out and looking very fierce, even with beheaded heads in her hands and on her clothing. So she is the most powerful form of Shakti, she is believed to be. And she destroys evil to protect the innocent. And yes, she may appear perhaps a bit scary, but ultimately, many believe her to be actually the kindest and the most loving form of the Shakti, despite her appearance. Because if you think about it, the person who is willing to go out and protect with such ferocity with her weapons, to be beheading people, that is actually the strongest type of protector. She's protecting the innocent, the people, the ones that she loves. So what Ma Kali really is so empowering is because she helps to take us beyond fear, to take that first step onto the spiritual path. She gives us that courage to draw upon whatever intense love or intense emotion we are feeling. That means that we are compelled to feel that we need to act to protect a person, an innocent person perhaps, or a child, or something that you love. It could be your country, it doesn't have to be a person. She helps to give you that courage, take you across that first step and onto then beyond onto your spiritual path. And in many ways, because if you think of what she's wearing and how she looks, she's doing this in such a mental state of complete absorption, intense absorption in this emotion, that she's not really caring what she looks like. And that just, again, feeds into that portrayal, that image of Ma Kali being so intensely committed to protecting whatever it is that she's needing to protect, that she doesn't care what others think of her. Now, Ma Kali, she transcends time. And you can imagine when you are so committed to an act, perhaps because something you love very dearly is under threat, time does kind of stand still to you. So Ma Kali, she transcends time, and she is known as the devourer of time. She often is depicted with 3 eyes that represent, looking to the past, to the present, and to the future. Now, both Ma Kali and Ma Durga are obviously forms of Ma Parvati. She is the consort of Bhagwan Shiva. And as we all know, Lord Shiva, Bhagwan Shiva, can't exist without his consort, without the Shakti, and vice versa. Lord Shiva is the consciousness, and the Shakti is the energy or power to that consciousness. Kali also means, dark. It transcends nature. It transcends the material world. It transcends all material qualities. And it's quite often mentioned that Bhagwan Shiva has this sort of dark energy or dark matter form. But as I just mentioned, Bhagwan Shiva and the Shakti, they are as one, really. They can't exist without the other. So just as Bhagwan Shiva is associated with dark energy and dark matter, so too is the Shakti, and particularly the Ma Kali form, this dark form that transcends nature, transcends the material world. Now, 68% of the universe is dark energy, and 27% is dark matter. Combine the two, that's 95% of the universe is energy and matter that we don't really know anything about. With our modern day telescopes and cosmological theories, it's still a complete mystery what this energy and this material are. We can't see it in the laboratory. We have no evidence for it, no physical evidence for it, apart from the fact that we know that the universe is accelerating in its expansion. So that's why we know it is there, even though it is unseeable to us. So actually, we can't detect this consciousness and this energy of Bhagwan Shiva and the Shakti in the lab. We can only see it, experience it spiritually. Now, Ma Parvati and her avatars, as I just said, the consort is Bhagwan Shiva, and Ma Kali is often depicted either standing or dancing on Bhagwan Shiva. And I bring this up because it's important, again, to make people aware that this idea of feminine, masculine, female, male roles that is so commonplace in modern times, in Hinduism, it doesn't actually identify to this sort of binary division between the genders, that the woman is meek and mild and the man is strong and he has the anger, and that the woman is always there to calm the husband. It can equally be the other way round. And so we see Ma Kali, that when she is let loose on the battlefield, she can become so intense in that battle that she can sort of lose herself. And she has to rely on Bhagwan Shiva to calm her down, to pacify her. And that's the depiction that he's underneath her feet. He's helping to keep her calm and to pacify her. Because otherwise, the fear was that she was about to destroy the whole universe, because she was so intensely focused on this battle. And it's interesting then when you look at the Ma Parvati. So when Ma Kali is in Ma Parvati form, there it's often the other way around, that Ma Parvati is calming Bhagwan Shiva and making him sort of domestic in many ways, people say. So they have these very compatible or complementary roles in calming each other down. And I think that's just so beautiful, because that is the way that any relationship between a man and a woman should be. If they're both very balanced people, there'll be times where each of them perhaps gets angry or something irks them, and the other one is there to calm them down. It's not always that the man gets angry and the woman has to be meek and mild and calm him down. So Hinduism, it sees the masculine and feminine as a spectrum of characteristics, where any of a male or a female can experience anger, and then the female or the male can calm the other down. It all depends on what the situation is, what exactly has happened, how does that individual react to a situation? Because as we know, every individual is unique, and a good way to think about things is to think, well, we each have our intrinsic dosha, our own sort of classification for the type of person we are when it comes to the sorts of illnesses that we are predisposed to have, the sorts of diets that are best suited to each of us. So there are certain situations that might irk a Vata person much more than a Pitta person, or vice versa. And I see that very nicely actually within my own marriage, because my husband is Pitta ++, and I am, I think, probably Vata ++. So there are many situations where we are there to look after each other, to hold each other's hand, to calm each other down. When whatever situation occurs that irks us, the other is there to help calm us down and to help us see that this is just a temporary situation. Now, as I mentioned, it's quite a Western lens to see the male and the female and the masculine and feminine as very binary things. But there have obviously been times where men in India, in Bharat, have also underestimated the power of women. And that then I come back to Ma Durga, where we see that the Asura, Mahishasura, he asks first for a boon to not be killed by any man or any deva, but he forgets women. It doesn't even cross his mind that he could be defeated by a woman. So he doesn't ask for it. And then what happens, of course, Ma Durga comes and she defeats him. So he underestimates the women. Similarly, when we look at Ma Kali, she is in multiple battles, defeating Asuras, Chanda Masura, Munda Masura, and Raktabija Asura. And Raktabija Masura, Asura, he has this ability to reproduce himself, to almost like produce clones. When he is hurt and bleeding, every time blood drops to the ground, it creates a clone of himself. So Ma Kali, what does she do? She sucks out his blood so that he cannot keep reproducing herself. You know, coming back to that idea of she doesn't care how she's looking. She is just so focused on completing her task. So sucking the blood out of this asura is nothing to her. If that is what she needs to do to fulfill her task, that is what she will do. Now, Ma Kali, she appears to the Pandavas in their dreams just before they go onto the battlefield. And then when they are on the battlefield and they are fighting Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthamaji, again, she appears to them, giving them courage to fight. Because ultimately, they are being faced with this horrendous situation where they're having to fight their own family members. But she reminds them, gives them courage that this is the karmic thing to do. This is what they need to do to restore karma. Similarly, Bhagwan Ram does puja to Ma Durga before the battle with Ravan. So we see in all these instances, you know, devas doing puja to the Shakti, and the most fierce warriors in Bharat's history doing puja to the Shakti and drawing strength and courage from her. And even in modern day times, the Indian army, many of its regiments, their war cries are Durga Mata Ki Jai or Kali Mata Ki Jai. So it just goes to show that men across the world have underestimated women, particularly in the West throughout history. But there has always been this sense, particularly within Bharat and Hinduism, where women are not just meek and mild and beautiful and intelligent and beautiful musicians and all these wonderful things, but they are also warrioresses and courageous and fiercely protective, and from whom men can seek strength and courage to themselves then become strong and courageous. I mean, which other religion or society has that model? It's really very remarkable, and it's one of the reasons why I love Hinduism so much. And I'm really grateful to Hinduism for empowering me to be stronger, to be more courageous. And as I said, I use it particularly to speak out for India and Hinduism and to right any injustices that are spoken about India and Hinduism.